Greetings and welcome to today's video where we are going to discuss what zero is. Is zero an even number, an odd number, or is it neither one? So let's go ahead and get started with that discussion. Okay, so I've had a lot of people ask this question. I even remember hearing a couple of kids talking about it on the bus one time, if zero was even or odd or neither one. And in my mind, I'm just screaming what the answer is. But let's talk about it. So think about what your even numbers are, right? If I were to ask you even numbers, you would probably say, oh, 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on. And if I asked you what are odd numbers? Well, odd numbers, you might say 1, 3, 5, 7, and so on, right? So what about 0? Well, think about what you're doing for even numbers. For each even number to go to the next one, you are adding 2 each time, which interestingly enough is the same thing you're doing for the odd numbers. You're just adding 2 every single time so that you can skip over all of those even numbers, right? And what about 0? Well, if you're adding 2 to go to the right to get to larger numbers on the number line, right? So let's draw that real quick. So let's say 1, 2, let's just mark these guys off nicely and easily. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, and so on. You see how your even numbers skip to, or they skip by adding 2 to go to the next one and so on, right? Well, you could reverse that, right? So if I started here at 8, you could subtract 2 to get to 6, subtract 2 to get to 4, subtract 2 to get to 2, and what if you subtract 2 again? That's right, you would end up at 0. So looking at it this way, you could see that 0 is an even number, just like 2, 4, 6, 8, and all those other guys. And you might say, well, what about those odds? Okay, so let's look at the odd numbers. If you start at 9 and you work your way backwards to 7, work your way backwards by 2, it gets you to 5, subtract 2 again is 3, subtract 2 is 1, subtract 2, then you would end up at -1, completely skipping over 0. Again, 0 is even. Now, let's look at a more formal definition for what it means to be even versus what it means to be odd. Okay, but before we do that, I said one of the things you need to know is the definition of integers. Okay, so the set of integers would include all of those positive and negative whole numbers, right? So when we talk about what does it mean to be even or odd, this is the more formal definition that we use. So an even number is one that's going to be of the form 2k, where k is an integer. And an odd number will be of the form 2k plus 1, again, where k is an integer. Okay, so if we think about what that means for us, and just scroll down here for a second, that means that every even number is going to be of the form 2 times k, where k can be any one of these numbers that we see up here. So let's think about what that would look like. Okay, so I'm just going to highlight this here in green because that's fun to do. So for your even numbers, okay, if I were to multiply this times 2, you would have, let's see, 2 times -2 is -4. 2 times -1 would be -2. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 1 is 2, and then 4, and so on, right? So these would be all of your even numbers. What about your odd numbers, right? Well, that means that your odd numbers would be the set that is basically all of the guys that you see above for the even numbers, but with that plus 1. So if we add 1 to this, there's your -3. Add 1 gives you -1. 0 plus 1 is 1. Then 3, 5, and so on. Again, pointing out to you the fact that here is 0 situated firmly in the set of even numbers. So if anybody ever asks you, what is 0? Is it even? Is it odd? Is it neither? You can say with absolute certainty that 0 is an even number. All right, thank you guys for watching. Please make sure that you like and subscribe and do all the fun stuff that people do on social media. And now I got to think about what to do for another video. Until the next time, have a good one.